You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
Hey guys, it's Charge Hayner, present Zoom the TBT, and tonight we got a fun show. We have Matt Martucci, voice of St. Joe's, Tim Scarborough from Stadium, and Chris Foster from the Big Ten Network with me in charge, and TBT, obviously. And we're doing a little bit of a fun show we're calling TBT 21. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our contestants different questions. They're going to give us the hottest takes they can and try to convince you, our viewers, that their opinion's the right one. We're going to get right into this with a quick round of buy and sell. We're going to Matt with this question. Is it more advantageous to be an alumni squad?
I'm going to say no, simply because you look at the quality of some of the teams in TBT that aren't alumni squads. I think familiarity obviously is important, but you look into last year's championship game, look at sideline cancer. That's case in point, number one. Is it more advantageous? None of those guys, for the most part, had played together at a particular school together, but they're all playing together for one particular cause, and they played together before, but none of them are a particular alumni of one university or another. But the chemistry that they have and the group that they have just simply works. So I'm going to say no.
He's going to say no. Tim, what do you think? Is he correct, or what do you think?
I'm going to agree with my man Tooch because he's a Philly guy. I'm a Philly guy, so I got to vibe with him a little bit. But I'm going to do it for different reasons. I think the fact that your talent pool is unlimited when you're not an alumni team, and it's very limited when you are, if you want to be a true alumni team. Now, we've seen
if you want to be a true alumni team.
A true alumni, right. We've seen, McCamey from Illinois play with the Carmen's crew. The big guy, Mike Dahm from South Dakota State, played with the Fighting Illini. So you always are open to having one or two ringers, but for the most part, the alumni teams have been pretty true to their word. But I'll say this, the teams that are great in college oftentimes don't really have a talent pool because half their guys are in the NBA. You think about the Dukes and the Kentuckys. Kentucky has not done well in TBT. They've done great in NBA. You got 32 guys in the NBA right now. But TBT, their talent pool, there's not many guys who play at Kentucky that are also eligible and available to play in the summers.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that too, because D2 from the pod also get rid of them first round a couple of years ago in the Lexington Regional.
In Lexington,
in Lexington, and on their floor. Charge, I know you have an opinion about this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's absolutely advantageous to be an alumni team. And I'll talk more about what constitutes an alumni team in the closing, because I have a very strong opinion about that may surprise you.
You have a strong opinion? No.
Never. But, yeah, the big thing here is there's going to be elite teams, and then there's this big group of teams that are on the bubble. And being an alumni team, you get good favor with TBT. So the number one criteria is going to be that fan base and that watchability, what you can put on ESPN, and draw a crowd. So you absolutely have an advantage of being an alumni squad. You're going to get that fan base, and you're going to get a favorable seed as well with being an alumni team. Right, wrong, or indifference, that's the way it is. And then the other piece is just the chemistry. So everyone talked about chemistry, but a lot of these guys have played 4 years together. When you look at Golden Eagles last year, Carmen's crew the year before, these guys know each other. They trust each other. There's no egos. There's no ball hogs, and they're just playing really good ball.
Now, do you mean the Golden Eagles or the Ultimate Warriors? I digress. We can
talk
about that later.
We
can talk about that later. It's a team that never messes up with a fairly big football. To their credit, they already fixed that. By the time this tape, they've already pulled the branding. Chris, you work with the Big Ten Network, so obviously some of the best alumni bases are in the cornfields of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. Is it advantageous to have that alumni squad, do you think?
Yeah, fellas, I'm definitely buying this, absolutely. And I think furthermore, it's becoming more and more advantageous to be a college alumni team. And I'll just point out for starters that the last two champions in TBT have in fact been college alumni teams, Marquette, Ohio State, respectively. And I think you're going to see more and more of that going forward. Now, I really like the points that Matt and Tim bring up, because if you look at some of the core teams in TBT throughout the history of the tournament, whether it's Sideline Cancer, Challenge ALS, Eberline Drive. You've got some team Armored Athlete. You've got some non-college alumni teams that are a really big part of what TBT's identity is all about and what it's become. But I think going forward, if you look at a lot of the new teams that have been added to the fold, not just this year, but in the past couple of years, they're definitely skewing the college alumni way. And I think you have such a natural fan base to tap into that it's really, I think, the area in which the tournament is growing the most. And I think if you look at Boeheim's Army in particular, that's kind of the template, I think, that a lot of college alumni teams are going to follow going forward. And no one might ever be able to really touch Boeheim's Army. I mean, just in terms of their devoted fan base and the fact that they have local newspaper writers and beat reporters covering this team like it's a pro team, and I suppose it is. But
yeah,
I definitely think that's the area in which TBT is going to be growing the most going forward, is definitely in the direction of more college alumni teams. And I think that unfortunately poses maybe a little bit of a challenge to teams like an Armored Athlete and Everline Drive. I think they might have to worry about their talent getting purged or plucked a little bit by guys that are going to go where their loyalty is in terms of their college alma maters. So I think it's definitely a really exciting development in TBT, but I'm absolutely buying that one.
Now, can I point something out though, Andrew?
You can't, Tim.
I'm sorry, you're a character.
Call me whichever one you want, man.
You know
Who
what?
cares?
I'm going to be Hainer. Let me be Hainer.
Oh, there we go. You wear it so much better, Tim. So much better.
Very nice.
But listen, we point out all those things about the advantages of the alumni teams, but I must point this out. That Syracuse team lost in Syracuse to Brotherly Love.
And they're not getting any younger. They're not getting any younger.
That Columbus team, the Carmen's Crew, lost in Columbus last year, right?
Yeah.
Kentucky, we just mentioned. Home court advantage doesn't mean anything when millions of dollars are at stake, is what I'm saying, fellas.
You better be careful, Scar. Belby's going to come after you on Twitter.
Oh, I know.
And
Belby's already coming after me.
You got a Cuse alum here. You have a Cuse alum too.
Look, I can't get away from Cuse alums.
And I think Belby is Foster's agent, is he not?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if it's either Boeheim's Army or Boeheim's Mafia. I'm not sure which one.
You're barking up the wrong tree here.
Hey, once you get in, you can never get out. I tell you that.
Man.
So that's a good segue talking about former champions and alumni bases into our next question. Great segment. It's buy and sell. We will have a first-time champion in TB 2021, and also as an add-in. Does that kind of start to mean that Overseas Elite Dynasty might be over? So new champion, Overseas Elite. Tim, let's start with you this time.
So if you're asking me, am I taking Carmen's Crew, Boeheim's Army? They haven't won it. Sorry. Golden Eagles, or who's the other one that won? The Notre Dame team.
Notre Dame or Overseas.
Back in ancient history.
That's right, 2014.
Or the field.
Yeah.
I'm taking the field. I'm going to take the field. And Chris brought it up. There's a lot of good new teams in. Now, the concern with new teams is that you better have one or two guys who've played in TBT before, because this is like nothing you have ever experienced. If you're coming to TBT for the first time, the intensity level, the way you finish the games with the Elam ending is just a different animal. So you better have some TBT experience in your group if you're going to go far in this tournament. But if you're asking me if I'm taking prior champions versus the field, and let's be honest, Overseas Elite hasn't won anything since Kyle Fogg and Eric McCollum hasn't played with them, right? They've lost. And that's not to say that DJ Kennedy can't carry him, because he does each and every year, Mr. TBT. But until they get those two guys back, I'm taking the field.
George, what do you think? I mean, the field or experience?
Yeah, I'm 100% with Tim on this one. We're all talking about how the TBT teams keep getting deeper and deeper. So gone are the days where there's layups in the first round or two. Every single game, you got to bring it. You're going to have a good team. And, the popularity of TBT keeps growing. So you're getting NBA guys, some guys that still have some great life left in their careers that are coming on, NBA experience. And then you got teams like ALS and Sideline Cancer that just keep getting better and better and better. So it's not only the field getting deeper, but the top teams, they know they need to make these moves to keep getting better and better. And so I'm absolutely taking the field. I don't see any of those folks repeating. And as far as Overseas Elite, I had the same notes as Tim. I think Kyle Fogg and Eric McCollum, that just really shows you how much chemistry they had. I'm not going to say Overseas Elite will never win another title, but that was the core there. They were the brand that was the kind of the lifeline of the team. They kept things calm. They were just an amazing calming force on that Overseas Elite team. And now you're just kind of patching together a bunch of overseas guys. I mean, I think they had 18 transactions over the course of a day last year leading up to the tournament. So you don't know who's
that
going
was
to
the worst. We were prepping that show, and I was doing slides for it. And every hour that day, my clients are like, where's your stuff? I'm like, I'm busy prepping for a podcast, which you can't tell clients, obviously. They're like, I want my drawings. It's not a great solution. So Chris, let's see. Yeah, exactly. So Chris, what do you think? The field or the former champs? And what about overseas elite? Where are we at?
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, I think Marquette, the Golden Eagles were my preseason #1 team in the top 25 rankings that we came out with. And to an extent, I think that as long as you're the champion, you retain that crown until somebody knocks you off. And so I think that the Golden Eagles team absolutely has a chance to go back to back, especially if they bring Darius Johnson-Odom back. I mean, he's been like a dude in the tournament for the past 2 years in particular. But having said that, I'm gonna buy this as well and say that we're gonna have a new tournament champion this year in 2021. And a big part of the reason why is because the field is so much bigger this year.
Yeah.
So even if the Golden Eagles come back completely intact, maybe even they add a few pieces and are better than they were before, they're just going to have to win more games now that the field is up to 64. And as we continue to discuss the depth of the field this year, I think I don't know about hands down, but I think it's definitely going to be the deepest tournament field of 64 that there's been in TBT history. It's just going to be really hard to go back to back. And plus the fact there's going to be travel in the equation again. You're not going to be in the bubble and kind of get in your rhythm and just wake up, go to the arena and play again. So I think there are going to be more challenges. It's going to be tougher, I think, to repeat this year than it even has been in years past. And so I like the field in this one too, fellas.
I mean, the odds just make it that way. Matt, we're going to make it a clean sweep, or are you going to buy or sell this, or are you going to be contrarian?
I mean, in the spirit of the program, I'm supposed to argue the other point, aren't I? I'm not going to.
You're supposed to, but it's hard to, because I mean, despite the quality of teams, it's odds. It's the odds, right? It's the odds.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too hard. Scar and I saw this a couple of years ago regarding overseas elite when we were in Richmond. I mean, it seemed like they were kind of teetering then, and then they ended up getting knocked off eventually. Before Carmen's crew ended up winning. This was a couple of years back, and losing Fogg and losing McCollum, and even I think that their big man Todd O'Brien decided not to come back. It's a different makeup, and just the quality of this tournament. We talk about it all the time. It gets better and deeper every year when you talk about the level of play that's here. I think, and I'm going to make a point about this later. I think this could be the best one that we've had for a lot of different reasons. Chris made the point that there are 64 teams again. The travel is massive. Having to be somewhere new the next week. I mean, that's like the NCAA's pretty much. It's the same type of deal. And I think that makes all the difference in the world, just in terms of your mental makeup and how tough are you as a squad together. Scar made the point earlier too, when it comes to the Elam ending. The teams that are the most veteran in this and have his, I think you trademarked this, didn't you? Elam Enders.
The Elam Ender. That's mine.
Yeah, the guy.
That's mine.
The teams that have the best Elam Enders are the ones that tend to do the best. I'm in a market that's talking about crypto every day. I'm pretty bullish on Sideline Cancer and their ability to actually be able to get back. I just think they have the most guys in terms of head for this stuff, that have the mental aspect to be able to get over the hump late game situation. So I'm bullish on Sideline Cancer to at the very least get back to the title game.
Hey, Tooch, let's talk offline about your Bitcoin plan. Maybe I can tap into your knowledge there. But Scar, you might have to fight with Seth Greenberg for who coined Elam Ender. He might lay claim to coining that one. I don't know.
Come on,
you might also both have to fight Elam. I mean, like, you deserve some money out of this. It's a good idea.
We'll break Nick Elam off a little something.
Yeah,
I know I coined that phrase. Me and Seth Greenberg are gonna have to fight when we get to Charles.
Yeah, to go back to the video.
We'll tape that fight, put on the show.
Who covered the jamboree, I guess. Go back to the jamboree. Who called that game?
It was me. Hey, in fact, I called the first Elam Ender game. Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
And to this day, TBT uses my voiceover in the arena to explain what the heck the Elam ending is. So
there we go.
Seth Greenberg
Shameless self promo right there.
Shameless self. This show is all about shameless self promotion. Absolutely. So we were talking about the quality of the field, depth of field, because obviously the former champions are also going to be contenders, and the field is just getting deeper. The quality of play is just getting so much better as this tournament continues to evolve, which means the lower seeds are getting much stronger. There's no soft touches, even down to 13, 14, even a 16 seed gets feisty sometimes now. So we'll start with Vosters, since he's been batting cleanup most of the game. Buy or sell, a regional host will get bounced before the Super 16.
Well, I'm definitely gonna buy that, and I don't, not to like
name names,
dodge the question, but I mean, so for the Columbus Regional, for instance, I mean, we've got Carmen's Crew and Red Scare as co-hosts, right? And in the Charleston Regional, we've got Best Virginia and Heard That as kind of co-hosts. So I mean, I just mentioned 4 really good teams, but yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a region where someone goes down, and maybe even in the event of having the regions where there are shared hosts, maybe there's like just flat out not either one of those teams in the regional final.
Yeah, a full bracket collapse.
And the template's there before. I mean, I think to 2019, when it was such a big deal to have Aftershocks host in Wichita, and they set the record for largest crowd in TBT history, and they were bounced and didn't even make the regional final. And I mean, I know they get another regional again. I mean, I hope for their sake and for everyone's sake that they get back there. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really hard, and especially, we were talking about this before we came on, but that Charleston regional is absolutely loaded.
It's a mess.
It's a mess in a good way, in a beautiful way.
Oh yeah, it's going to be black. It's going to be, it's on paper right now by far the best region. Tim, what do you think? Buy or sell? A host team won't get out.
I'm going to absolutely buy the fact that there will be several host teams that will lose, because let's think about Charleston, what we just talked about. Everybody who comes on your podcast, who are they after?
Everybody.
Heard That. And you add to the fact that Heard That may have hemorrhaged a couple of players. We won't mention any names, but Team Arkansas is looking real good right now.
Pig Suey, yeah, Hawks,
right?
Hogs, yeah.
So I want Keith Kelly to change that name to High on the Hogs, because I
like that. I like that.
And Keith didn't, and I've suggested it to him several times. What's that?
Team 40 Minutes of Hell, Nolan Richards.
There you go. Anything but Team Arkansas, right? But in all seriousness, though, all 4 regions have 2 co-hosts, right? We know all 8 of those teams are not going to be in it. Far more likely, as you just said, Hainer, that 2 guys from the same region will both lose more than all 8 will make it into Dayton. So yes, I'm definitely buying the fact that those host teams are going to be in trouble, some of them.
Now, to be clear, we're not talking about getting Dayton. It's win 2 games, because the weirdness of TBT, which makes it a great event, is it's 8 to through. We're thinking 16, but yeah, you're right. I mean, like, I really think none of them are definitely, not all of them are in Dayton. There's no way.
Still got to win 3 to go to Dayton, right?
Yeah, win 3 to get Dayton, just 2 to get to the Super 16. Yeah.
Right. I got
so Matt, what do you think? Buy or sell? A host going down early?
This is like the worst unanimous panel ever. Right off the bat.
Hey, you know what? I'm just gonna be Hater again, and I'll go against you.
Yeah, there we go. There's just too many factors at play. I think the fact that you were in a bubble a year ago, the fact that you are going to have fans, the fact that just the attitude and the intensity is going to be ramped up, 10-fold, 20-fold, whatever it happens to be, I think increases the chances for an opening round or a second round upset for any one of those host teams. I'm going to look at one of the teams that has more depth, and everybody loves Best Virginia's roster. I do too. I almost think they have too many guys.
Yeah, it's possible.
That's almost one of our big talking points usually.
Where have we seen that before?
Yeah,
in Richmond, VCU.
Yeah,
VCU had too many good guys.
Yeah, they had like a double-digit rotation in terms of guys that they brought in, and they ended up losing. And I think we could very well see the same type of thing for that Best Virginia squad. They're uber talented, but how do you manage minutes? I mean, that's always a question that we ask with a lot of the deeper teams in TBT. Is there a right number in terms of your rotation? And I don't know that there's like a perfect number, but you don't want to be playing more than like 7 or 8 guys. You're getting into the 10, 11, 12 range, and things start to get a little weird.
Well, it depends on what style of play, Bix. I mean, if you're playing fast and loose, you need a few more guys. If you're playing more of if you believe in a Boeheim 5 guys play 40 minutes type roster, then sure, you can use a shorter bench. But yeah, it's a complete point. It's more of a question of roster size or even rotation, question of how many balls are there. We just mentioned Team Arkansas, who's going to be a high quality team, but like that team's becoming a lot of mouths to feed. There aren't enough shots.
There aren't enough shots to go around on that roster.
No, there really aren't. And it's just going to get worse as more roster stuff comes out.
I love Jalen Barford, but that adds to the equation that much more.
Yeah, he needs the ball.
Yep, he needs the ball. But there are like 3 or 4 other guys that also need the ball.
Yeah. Charge, what do you think? Buy or sell? Ace host will not win 2 games.
Yeah, no, we'll make it a clean sweep. I'm definitely buying there. Agree with the sentiment. The tournament's just so deep. Someone's going to get bit. But like Matt, I will name names, and it's going to be Wichita. Wichita will not advance past the round of 32. Looking at the Wichita region, it is ridiculously deep already. I see 8.
You don't even know who they're playing. How do you know?
He doesn't care.
It don't matter. I'm going to tell you that right now because there's already 8 teams that are better than Wichita in that bracket.
Okay.
You've got ALS, you've got Arkansas, you got the LA Cheaters, you got TNT, you got Enchantment, and I mean a couple more guys that are just as good.
Enchantment's a first-time team though, so I've never been before. To be fair.
And the rumor is Overseas Elite may end up there. 0 chance. No home crowd is going to save these guys. Wichita, they're done.
Wow, that's our first real hot take of the whole thing. We're going to definitely have to tag the Shocks on that one. Gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, regroup for our second round, and this is Zoom the TBT playing 21 with our panel.
Next segment, our panel plays the second round of TBT 21 on Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer.
Hey, we're back from break. It's Hainer and Charge present Zoom the TBT. And right now, we're going to complete our round of 21 with round 2. And we're going to start Tim off with this question. What is a team that no one is paying attention to right now that can contend?
For me, it's always my guys from Philly, Brotherly Love. You think about what they did in 2019 when they had to go up to Syracuse and beat that Boeheim's Army team on the road. They beat them 84-72. They got a bunch of guys who are dogs from the Philly area. They handle the ball well. Their chemistry is as good as anyone. And I tell you, the thing about them that makes them special is they just outwork the other team.
Yeah.
And they never give up. And even when they're down, you don't see like Overseas Elite, even when they've been down by 20 and come back and win, but they're fighting while they're doing it. They're punching each other, pushing each other in the huddles and things. If you ever sat behind their bench, you'll know what I'm talking about. But in the end, they do come together. But this Brotherly Love team, they just have been one of those teams that are very difficult to beat. No one's ever talking about them. But when they play against them, they go, oh my gosh, Franz Monsonet is about to drop 30 on us. Sammy Givens is 6'4", but he plays like Charles Barkley. He'll get you 22 rebounds in a game. So they have a lot of that coming back. And I talked to Danny Holzman, their GM. He said they got a couple of guys who are a little bit younger and a little bit bigger that may get them over the hump. So for me, it's my guys from Philly, Brotherly Love.
Yeah, I mean, those Philly guys never bet against. And plus, I don't know if Wyatt Khalifa's surfaced anywhere yet this year, the Temple guy. And I don't think he's on a roster yet. So that's the kind of guy. Matt, you're a Philly guy. Where you want to take this conversation now? Again, who's a team that no one's paying attention to that can contend, you think?
I mean, Scar and I saw him a couple years ago in Richmond. I'm going to go with Florida TNT.
Ooh.
Simply just because it's a bunch of veteran guys. Chris Warren, a guy that's been in TBT for a little while. Rob Gray, whose game I absolutely loved him in the tournament when he was at Houston. Probably should have had a longer NCAA run. If
he tortured Memphis for years, tortured them.
If Jordan Poole and Michigan hadn't basically crushed their dreams, Rob Gray, who knows? Rob Gray and Houston might have gone to the Final Four that year.
They would have.
But just they have a big time veteran presence. They go out and they always get good guys. They have a big man in the middle, probably one of the more talented big men in the tournament that nobody really knows about or nobody talks about, Keith Clanton.
Really good player.
I think it's a phenomenal big, really good big. So I'll go with Florida TNT. I think those guys have the potential to make some noise. simply because they've been there before, and they're hungry, and they're going to be that much hungrier simply because they didn't get to experience this.
Yeah, they got iced out last year, and I
Yeah.
talked to Terry Hughes. I
Them
talked to
in
Terry
Iowa.
Hughes a lot, and Terry was really, really upset because he felt like that team had a chance to do something in the bubble last year.
We
So they're
had them.
chomping
I
at the
agree.
bit.
Yeah, Charge. We had them as a 1 seed in our bracketologies early last year before it went to a bubble format. We had them as a 1
Yeah.
seed in one of the temporary regions, which is kind of a wild thing to think. So, Charge, what a team no one's paying attention to that you think can contend?
Yeah, and I love the call out on TNT by Matt. That's one of those ones I'm just so fond of. I didn't even think of them as a team that's no one's talking about. But after that snub last year, and they got a couple Charge guys too. So you got Spurlock and Blakeney. So obviously fond of them. But a couple of teams I really liked, and I'm going to go back to Philly, like Tim, overlooked the Murray State alumni. They got a couple of names I see circulating that's not published yet. I love the Murray State team. Canaan's going to be fantastic. Love them, but not enough to talk about yet. The region's growing, and I think they're poised for a good year. But I'm going to go to Philly and go to 20th and Olney. So we'll stick our folks out in Philly. And the interesting thing is we're talking to Newman Goretti quite a bit now, and they're claiming that they're the best team out of Philly. So it may not even be
That's a tough
and
thing
it
to
may
say.
not be Team Brotherly Love. But I just really love Maurice Watson. The guy's had a career year overseas, over in Turkey right now. I mean, he was over 18 points a game, 9 assists per game. The guy's got range. He can defend. And, he was a Brotherly Love guy, I think, underutilized over there, Tim. So I don't know if they're going to be missing him this go around in TBT 2021. But I just really love him. They have a lot of good guard play too with Jordan Price. I mean, he scorched Hilton Magic for like 39 or something like that in Columbus a couple years ago. So this guy can score. Tyreek Dunn, Tyrone Garland, some big time ballers. And so I just really like the grit that the Philly teams bring, just like Brotherly Love. You're going to get that same thing from 20th and Olney. But I'm just really bullish on Maurice Watson this year, having a career year. Good chance for him to showcase himself on ESPN this summer.
Okay, there we go. Vosters, what do you think? Who's someone no one's paying attention to that can get this title?
All good candidates so far, and especially with that 20th and Olney team, they did add Tyrone Garland to the roster, who is the originator of the Southwest Philly floater. So that'll definitely be a team to watch for sure. But guys, this has been a big week for roster announcements. I feel like, and it's usually around this time anyway, where it's almost like the TBT Twitter feed becomes like a daily point of viewing, because there's just breaking news every day, and it's really starting to cook right now. But when I stumbled across the LA Cheaters roster, I honestly did a double take. I was like, wait, are these guys like, sponsors or coaches? I just couldn't believe that they got all these guys, this many guys committed to playing in TBT.
We're going to mute Chris here because I warned her we were going to do this because we said teams we're not talking about. Everybody's talking about the Cheaters. Everybody's talking about Cheaters. Everybody's talking about the Cheaters. In all honesty, though, Chris, go ahead, unmute yourself. I'm just screwing around. So continue your analysis.
Guys, it's a first-year team. I mean, I don't know, was LA Cheaters in anybody's top 25 at the start of the season? I
love them, but I didn't put them in there. Not enough info yet, but Tim got them.
That's what I'm saying. We got a lot of info on them this week, and they've got Casper Ware. They've got Quincy Miller, 2 guys with TBT experience. We've been talking about how huge that is. So, look, this is a team that I think you got to keep your eyes on. I think more
100%.
people will be talking about also going forward, especially with Derek Williams, Michael Thompson, Richard Solomon. I mean, it's almost like a Pac-12 all-star team as well.
So can you mute Chris before he takes all my material from the next question, please? Good night.
My bad, bro. My bad.
No, yeah, it's really good contention, guys. Great points all. So actually, Tim, you see, we seem to tee you up. So let's just go right to you on the next question. Touch number 2 for the section. What is the most improved squad at this point? Like, who has done the most to improve their standing in TBT in the community? And I think we know where you're going because of what you just said.
So this might surprise you, but it's actually the LA Cheaters. But I will say this. I had 3 teams that I listed, and LA Cheaters was one of them. The other one is Team Arkansas. Team Arkansas has had some decent teams, right? But then they go out early, and Matt and I have called a couple of their games. I know I called their game in Brooklyn when they got beat in the second round 3 years ago. And, Keith Kelly always tells me, I call him 2K. Keith Kelly tells me I'm his bad luck charm. So
that's why he's not going to Charleston. He's not going to Charleston for that reason.
He's staying away from his boy Scar. But I'll tell you, that Team Arkansas team, there's another shooter. Basically, there's 2 starters that I promise you, they will start for this team. They haven't been announced yet. A big and a shooter. And when they're 3,
they're
really.
up to 3 now.
and when they announced that, the whole world was going to be like, oh my gosh, Team Arkansas might win this thing.
Oh, they're one of the favorites once this all probably starts moving. So
and then I'm really high on TNT as well, but we covered that as well as the cheaters in the last.
I didn't mute him.
But here's the thing. I thought, hey, guys, this was supposed to be most improved, and LA Cheaters wasn't in the field last year. So
they were there 2 years ago.
They were 2 years ago.
Well, and they got smoked.
That's fair.
Right? They got smoked in the first round. And it's like, good Lord, you got a Drew League All-Star team, and you get beat. So now they said, listen, we're going to bring the dudes that we're bringing dudes this year, and we're trying to win some money. So, so you got to say they're one of the most improved teams.
Matt, most improved. Where are you going?
I'm going Red Scare, a team that's already had a lot of success in TBT, has 4 wins under its belt. They added 3 new guys, Brandon Spearman, who's obviously talented in the backcourt, Trevor Thompson, and then Devin Scott.
It's just having a bad connection.
Devin Scott, who I ended up getting to see a lot of as the play-by-play guy at St. Joe's. I think the thing that I love about their roster composition, they only have like 7 or 8 guys on their roster, but it's a ton of guys that have won a lot of basketball and have done it together. I kind of refuted the alumni team argument earlier, but I think in certain cases, and this is one of them, it really makes sense. And especially the motivation of having the tournament and the title game in Dayton this year. I think that will just add more fuel to the
motivation.
Fire.
Yeah, motivation.
More motivation to get there. So
we already said home court doesn't mean anything, though, right? It doesn't.
We'll see.
I mean, it's post-COVID almost.
You've done games at the UD Arena. That's a different animal, man.
I've done games at the Siegel Center too. And
those people would come see. They would come see Sacramento State and Kutztown.
They would
turn out for whatever. Different animal. Red Scare.
Chris, what do you think? Most improved squad at this point?
Forward to seeing Team Challenge ALS again. They always do such a great job, I think, promoting the cause, obviously, that is such a big deal for them. And I've loved, everyone knows what the Ice Bucket Challenge is by now, but still seeing the team announce that they're playing for Challenge ALS with an Ice Bucket Challenge, I think it just doesn't wear off on me. And look, I mean, really good backcourt this year in particular. I think Sean Marshall, especially transitioning into a GM role this year, really has done a good job putting together a strong backcourt. And as we talk about in particular, and I got this from my guy Greenberg, I mean, it's really guard play that goes a long way to having success in this tournament. And between Jerome Randall and Tyrese Rice and Devontae Friga, who's actually like a really
loves him.
Ad.
He's a local. He's I live probably on Union campus, so love seeing the things he's doing, bringing a lot of excitement to his own page. But yeah, amazing kid.
He absolutely is, and I mean, TBT should hire this guy to like make hype videos for the tournament. I mean, because he does a great job on YouTube. So, we all know Team Challenge ALS. They're one of the bedrock institutions of TBT, but I'm still really excited to see this team in 2021.
Yeah, a good team, the rich get richer kind of thing. I mean, they're always a great squad. And getting Randall from Eberline is a huge hit for Eberline. And my understanding is it's all good terms. It's just one of those one-year soccer transfers is what it sounds like, a loan like you would see in like the Premier League. But the reality is that's a big hit to Eberline. Yeah, it's like, we're going to loan you off for 1 year. Charge, what's the most improved team at this point?
Yeah, I kind of went the same direction as Chris did, and I can't remember who picked Red Scare, but kind of a good team that you would not expect. But I picked Carmen's Crew as my team that was trending in the wrong direction after last year. They were getting a little bit older. Sully hasn't played in a couple of years. Kraft is likely not to play. And so I think the 3 moves that they made immediately fill the gap and put them back in. I put them back above Red Scare in my overall top 25. I'm just really high on Carmen's Crew. But Shannon Scott replacing Aaron Kraft, Obviously, Kraft's, kind of a special player, but Shannon Scott, I mean, can facilitate and run that offense better than anyone. He had 20 assists in a G League game a couple years back. He was a two-time defensive team for the Big Ten back in, I think it was 2013, 2014. And so you lose Kraft, you bring in Shannon Scott. I've got no problem with that. Sully hasn't played in a couple years. They weren't very big. They've got Gibbs. I don't know if he's playing this year, but you bring in Caleb Weston, who had a great rookie season in the G League. So he looks fantastic. They bring some size, who also stretch the floor and can get outside and hit those threes. And then we talk about the age of Carmen's crew, and you get Keyshawn Woods, who had a great TBT debut with Big X a couple years back. I think he was a COVID situation last year, unfortunately. But you're going to get some of those younger guys in there to support Dealer, Lighty, Buford, some of those staples of the team. And they still got probably at least 4 more guys to announce. And I'm assuming they're going to continue to go younger. I wouldn't mind seeing CJ Jackson over here. But I think just those 3 moves answered every question I had about Carmen's crew. And I think they're back in business, top 14 for me.
If we were doing this 1 week later, I might put Men of Mackey on my list. And I just have a feeling that they're going to have some really big roster moves. They've only announced one guy, and it's Lewis Jackson, who is one of the best point guards, really a fan favorite. But I think there's a lot of support. I think a lot of people a lot of Purdue fans obviously are rallying behind Men of Mackey right now. And they haven't really put out hardly any kind of a roster yet, but I think they've got some good things in the pipeline, and I'm really excited. I think that could be a team that really takes a step forward this year too.
Chris, can you tell me what network you work for again?
I'm a big, I'm a Big Ten guy. I grew up in the Midwest. I like me some Big Ten. Charges in Ohio. He knows what it's all about. So.
I'm an Illinois grad.
I like my Big
Ten
Ten teams. What can I say?
Yeah. I'm an Illinois grad. I mean, people know I'm a Memphis fan. What'd you say, Matt?
You're a good company man. That's what I said. He's a good company man.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, good company, man. Well, we've played nice. We've had a wonderful time playing nice. So let's put on the black hats. Timmy, put your black hat on. Maybe we'll start with you. What's a highly touted team for this next point that's going to flame out early? And let's let Charge lead off for a change. Charge, what's a highly touted team that's going to go out early?
Yeah, let me go first on this one. So burn some bridges, but no, I'm absolutely concerned about Heard That. I mean, we made some references to the Heard That team and possibly some of the players from last year not being on the roster that are currently listed on the roster. So I think their team is going to be a little weaker than last year. Unless they have some ace up their sleeve, I don't see them being better than last year. But I think really the big thing is they just put a giant target on their back this year. And we acknowledged this earlier. And I would say minimum 6-7 GMs have told me if they could pick any team they want to play in the first round, it's Heard That. Give me Heard That all
They're
day
requesting
long.
it's like karaoke. They're calling their own shot. Like, I want Heard That. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's like, give it to me. And so I think they're going to have to play, out of their minds, because they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. I mean, it's tough enough to play a one-and-done tournament as it is, but there's been a lot of trash talk, a lot of smack talk, and we know the guys from there. It's in good nature. It's cocky. It's fun. But I think it's going to put some added pressure on Heard That to perform. So I think it's going to be more of a West Virginia Wildcat type of year for them versus running deep into the TBT in 2021.
Oh, that hurt. Vosters, what do you think? Who's going to flame out early?
Look, this is tough. This is tough for me to say because at this point, look, we all know people in the tournament with individual teams, but look, like, to kind of borrow from the NFL, the Super Bowl loser, like, usually doesn't even make the playoffs next year. And I don't know. I mean, sideline cancer, like, hey, I know they've got Marcus Keene coming back, but listen, I don't know, man. I mean, he's going to need some help. I think everybody knows what he brings to the table right now. I think you're going to see some defenses really key in on him and try and take him out of his game. And I love Billy Clapper, and I love everything that sideline cancer is all about. But look, I want sideline cancer to be on its guard. All right. I mean, definitely don't want to see them get knocked out early, but hey, look, like, got to be careful. And look what happened to Carmen's crew last year. I mean, it was somewhat of an earlier exit, I think, than people would have thought for the defending champions last year too. So it's not easy coming off a runner-up finish. I mean, you were so close. And especially there was so much magic to sideline cancer's run last year. I know I'm going to get crushed for it, and I certainly hope that I have.
You're doing them the favor by calling them out. You know?
You're telling them put your hands up. Put your hands up. You got to defend yourself.
I thought
Tim,
I think their last roster announcement will change your mind on that once they get that done.
This isn't going public, right? Like this is all.
No, don't worry. No one watches this anyway.
Yeah, no one watches this.
All the tens of viewers we have will roast.
Yeah, we were watched by a high single digit some shows. It depends. Tim, what do we think? A team going out early.
You know, at the risk of maybe ruining my career, because Kevin Belby is now at CAA, and he could literally just say, you know what, don't hire Scar anymore. But I'm going to say Boeheim's Army, man. I mean, to me, if your best player is Eric Devendorf,
Great player.
Yeah, they're both great players, but they're old, right? I mean, I think I played against a couple of those guys. So I'm going to say that Boeheim's Army is going to have an early exit this year. Sorry, Kevin Belby.
Ooh.
That's an interesting take though, because you see that Devendorf is going into coaching now, and also Nichols just became an assistant coach at the university, right? Nichols just
got
the
NBA guys. I mean, they got
absolutely.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend's a Cuse fan, so I mean, like this is something I talk about all the time. But what's interesting about that roster is the quality is 100% there, but are they going to be too old? Can they add some of these? I mean, Merrick Dolajai is the guy I'm really curious about, because he's going to go professionally in Europe. He can add some of that point center thing, but they need an infusion of blood. If they get the right roster, this is probably wrong. But if they had the roster they rolled out last time, the age is going to get them there. I think that's I'm buying this actually, as much as I love Syracuse.
Some of those guys are gone too.
I mean, Dante Green, I believe, is actually doing big three.
Coop Jardine's not on that roster anymore. Rick Jackson's not on that roster anymore.
Yeah.
So they're both playing for the Newman Goretti team.
Yeah,
I'm not going there because I'm a Cuse alum. I gotta support my boys.
yeah. But it's not crazy. I mean, it's possible.
No, it's not out of left field. Not at all. I brought him up earlier, and I think I gave them about 4 or 5 more guys than they actually have on their current roster. But I think they're gonna add a few more by the time this thing is all said and done.
I would agree.
Yeah. I think Best Virginia and Heard That are both out. I don't think either one of those teams ends up winning that West Virginia region.
So you think the entire West Virginia is a collapse?
I think, yeah. I think there's a lot of pressure there for both of those squads to win. And the fact that you are back in an atmosphere that actually does have fans this year, I think ramps it up that much more. I think you're going to see somebody in that region that's going to end up smacking one of or both of those teams. And I'll happily eat crow and put my foot in my mouth when they end up in the title game together. I just don't see it.
You'll be there. So you may have to eat that.
Yeah, I'll have to buy somebody a drink or several rounds.
Well, I think that's interesting about that. That's a very. I mean, the final forecast will like this. That's a pretty big take. Yeah,
see,
this is great.
Toots, you picked guys that you're covering their games, man. I stayed away from that whole region. That's why I went with Boeheim's Army.
You made a business decision. You mast decision.
You got to tiptoe in this business a little bit.
Just remember, Scar, I'm Italian. I'm used to looking over my shoulder. That's why when I go to a restaurant, I always face the entrance. You know?
Oh my God! You watch Godfather 1 minute. Actually, you got a lot of Italian names here. I know Charge is always talking about not eating kimchi, basically, because he's He just beats pasta.
Give me manicotti. Give me the good stuff.
Gosh, I tell you, all you East
Coast.
But
I told Daniel if he shows up in Charleston, I will try kimchi for the first time.
I'm having it delivered to your room. I'm having it delivered to your room.
Nah, Daniel's got to be there. I gotta.
Shout out Kimchi Express. Kimchi's great stuff. Bibimbap too.
Oh yeah.
I think Bibimbap Express wouldn't work as well as Kimchi Express.
Oh, Bibimbap.
Talking about Korean food. I mean,
that's a good dish. Yeah, that's a great dish.
Is there a better cinematic name on their roster than Garland Green?
No.
Anybody seen Con Air? Come on, Garland, the best.
Okay.
The Buscemi character.
That's awesome. Okay, one last point before we go to our final thoughts. And the game is really close. The scores are really close here. gentlemen, and we'll start with Chris on this one. If you can make one change to TBT, what is it?
So this isn't necessarily a change as opposed to maybe something that could be expanded upon. I'd love to see a TBT women's tournament. And there are a couple of things that, like right off the top of my head, would have to be just worked around logistically. I mean, first and foremost, the WNBA season is going on in the summer, and not even that there would necessarily be a competition for rosters there or anything like that. But, you know, there's a big part of professional women's basketball takes place overseas, obviously, like it does in men's basketball as well. But there would have to be some coordination to figure out when the best time of year that would be to potentially have the tournament. But ideally, you could have it going on simultaneously with TBT, the men's tournament. And I think you get a real bounce in ratings too. Women's basketball, I think, is hot right now, both at the collegiate level and at the professional level. And I would love to see, I know there's some great, especially covering Big Ten women's basketball, there's some great former college basketball players out there that I think would absolutely take advantage of an opportunity like this. And I think it would be great. I think there, like, just the way interest is growing in TBT as a whole, I think to tack on a women's tournament going on concurrently or something like that, I think would be awesome. And I think there'd be a lot of interest and support for it.
Yeah, you could definitely just do it in Dayton. Like, you could literally have a 16-team bracket in like as games with the whole thing. Basically, it would definitely be something worth doing. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah,
and I know, like, you know, Scar and Tooch can speak on this as well, but kind of maybe like even in a similar structure to like some conference postseason tournaments that you see in college basketball, where, you know, Conference USA, for instance, comes to mind, where you've got the men's and the women's tournament going on in the same arena. You know, even going on at the same time sometimes. You know, I think it would be really cool to see something like that going forward.
Absolutely, that's a wonderful idea. Let's go to Matt here. Matt, one change to TBT.
Ooh, you know what? It's funny. I was looking at this all week. Do I have to change anything? I personally, this is like the worst answer ever. I'm going to call myself out.
Yes, we're not going to allow Matt just to kiss people's ass here. Like, we're all TBT guys here. Like, we all love TBT.
Hey, wasn't he saying something earlier about being the company man? I mean,
look, this segment is called "Bite the Hand That Feeds You." Like, I love TBT. It's one of my favorite events in the whole thing. I absolutely love it. But like, there are things you can change. Let's just be serious. Right, Matt, go ahead. I was very rude. I apologize, Matt.
Fine. I'll come up with something. We can get really gimmicky. You remember the video game NBA Jam?
Yes.
Like, when give me a hot spot. Give me a hot spot that pops up on the court every now and then. Like, it happens like once a game, and you don't even know when it's coming. All of a sudden, it's just there. I don't know how we would do that, but
yeah, there's got to be a way to do it.
That was the most
CGI.
I just came up with on the floor. That was awful. I
Boom shakalaka.
Good day, sir.
All right, Tim, one thing you can change about TBT, go.
More games. And that means more work. Well, assuming Belby hasn't run me out of the business, more work.
I got you, bro. I got you.
All right, good. Chris has got my back. I love
bro.
Belby. That's why.
Kevin's great.
But the more games, more regions, and here's a tidbit that I think everybody could buy into, is pay the teams that win their regions. Give them not $1 million, but maybe give them $250, and that way you get awarded or rewarded for the progress you make in that tournament, because it is cutthroat, man. Going through all those games. Think about Sideline Cancer, how close they were to $1 million, but they left with this much, right? You know, it's the same with all the runner-ups, man. And thankfully, Travis Diener felt the agony of defeat one year, and then the following year he was able to come back and hit the game-winning shot.
Crushing Miller Lights the whole time, like this.
Yeah, exactly. The whole time he's crushing Miller Lights. But the thing about it is, had he not hit those shots, he might be crushing Miller Lights in a bad way, like he was the year before when Carmen's crew was celebrating in the bar. And I went to, Chris Paul took us all out, and everybody was drinking and celebrating Carmen's crew victory. And Travis Diener was at the bar drinking, but, he wasn't celebrating. The following year, of course, we weren't there because of COVID, but it was great to see them win it all. But I'd like to see teams make money on their way to the prize.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah,
a couple of years ago,
totally
they
agree.
had the regional champs get a small cut, I think, in
The
2019.
ticket sales, yeah. I think it was 2 years ago. The ticket sales, I can't remember how much it
Bigger,
be,
bigger,
but
bigger.
yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's almost every round that you win, every player gets
Suitcase, just a suitcase there of just unmarked 20s.
There you
Like
go.
make it like a drug dealer
TBT's
bag, like
money
the
when they're not
Wire.
here.
You just open the
Are you
floodgates.
guys in organized crime?
There's going to be a TBT image and likeness dispute now.
Right.
Like, no, man, no, you used my picture there. You pay up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Charge, you can change one thing by TBT. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Tim somewhat on the expanded number of games. And so this one may surprise you, Hainer. I want an expanded bracket, but wait,
I know.
not within the TBT structure. So I think everybody who's kind of been around a little bit understands that they did dabble into Jamboree a little bit and had some extra teams playing in. We do have the Vic Beasley tournament, which is a well-respected tournament coming up here, I think June 11th through 13th. So I don't want to mess with the TBT structure. I actually enjoyed the competitiveness of just 24 teams last year. I think 64 is the right number because we still have a lot of those mid-level teams with great rosters that need to get in. But I envision like the NCAA first four where, the TBT partners with, the Vic Beasleys of the world. And there could be other things, maybe the ECBL champion or whatever the case might be, but that they reserve seed lines, whether 15, 11, based on how good they believe the competition is going to be. So more teams can play their way in. And as we know, if you follow us, the Brooklyn Vultures are trying to play their way in through the Beasley tournament here. And so we're going to have him on the show, pretty quickly and then get the scoop on that. The Southern Gentlemen came out of the Beasley tournament a couple years back. They took out the Broad Street Ballers, and I can't remember who they lost to. But, so these are great teams that are getting passed up year after year after year. And so I want to expand the bracket. I want to give more opportunity with a guarantee to get into TBT, but outside the TBT structure is where I'm looking to go.
Fair enough. Matt, you had a thought?
Yeah, speaking of, since obviously we are on ESPN and have been for a little while now, I'm going to make my guy Joe Lenardi work overtime, and I'm going to make him come up with a bracket for the tournament. That's what we're going to add. We're going to bracketology TBT style. We're going to add Matt. We're going to seed all this before we actually do it.
Matt.
Hainer sad.
Matt.
Yeah.
You know what you just did?
What?
You put us out of work. We do like 3 of those a year.
That's
our most watched show. That's the only show everybody watches.
Out of the 10s to 20s of people that a few hundred.
We get the 30s or 40s to watch that show. We're taking one a week.
Dozens of people.
Dozens. Dozens.
Hainer may make 75 cents off of those shows, and you're just ripping it right out of his pocket.
It's funny because our podcast made I think $1 last year. No.
I'm not walking away. I'm not walking away with the Chipotle gift card after this one. I lost.
Okay, guys, those are great segments. As you can see, the scores are extremely close. So we're going to go ahead and just go straight to a big finish here. If you're watching the show, we're going to put this clip up, and we're going to let you guys pick the winner of the show because the scores are really, really, really close. So final thought. TBT. There we go. So, Chris, you want to show the colors? So let's go ahead. Your final thought, Chris. We're going to go with Chris first.
Just to summarize a lot of what we've talked about on the show already, but I think this is going to be the deepest and most competitive tournament ever. I think even setting the field of 64 is going to be a really fun challenge. And I think we're going to see new teams succeed in ways that we haven't before. I mean, this has been typically a tournament where experience really, really helps you out. But some of the new teams, maybe in name, if you start combing through the rosters, this guy played for another team last year or 2 years ago or something like that. So even though you might not recognize a team, chances are there's a guy that probably has some TBT experience on a respective roster. And so I think you're going to see some of the established powers in TBT maybe go down a little bit early. Maybe it's a team like, I know we talked about the LA Cheaters. Maybe it's a team like the Tennessee alumni team, the Volunteers, that gets on a run. Maybe it's the Buffalo alumni team that gets hot or something like that. So I think you're going to see a really deep and competitive tournament. And I think it's not necessarily going to be, I think you're going to have some surprises in the Sweet 16 this year.
Okay. That's a great take. Matt, closing thought.
I think back to a year ago when Chris and Tim and myself and several others were in Indianapolis and not actually getting to be there, to watch the basketball in person. And just the fact that we're going to be in the position to be there live this year and to have fans there this year, just for me already ramps up the intensity by about 100 times. And
buy your tickets now.
Yeah, exactly. The level of energy though that's going to be there, I think, among all these teams, simply because we talked about teams like, you think about what happened to Everline Drive, a year ago, where they most likely would have advanced, and a COVID test for one of their guys ended up ruining it. And, they go home and brotherly love ends up moving on. Thankfully, I think we're out of the woods when it comes to that kind of stuff this year, fingers crossed. And it's just made me that much more excited, that much more energetic. And I can't wait for July to get here. I think echoing some of what Chris just said right there, the quality is just going to be on another level this summer. The brand for this thing grows every year. There are always people that I end up talking to after this has been said and done, come August, September, who say, I watched that and it was the first time I watched it. And man, like what rock has this been hiding under, or what rock have I been hiding under where I missed this? So I can't wait. That's basically my overlying thought. July needs to get here fast. This is going to be the best one yet.
Tomorrow. It needs to be here tomorrow. Charge, close us out. Or your thought. What's your last thought?
Yeah, no, as far as my extra time, I'm going to talk a little bit about what constitutes an alumni team. And this is going to be a little bit of a 180 for me. I've always been, you got to have 7 guys, you better have 8 guys. But to me, I don't even care anymore. You got 4 guys, you got 5 guys, you got a few transfers. I don't really care. The important thing to me is that you have the fan base behind you. And the perfect example from last year is War Ready, or War Tampa, I guess. So I evolved too quick. They only had 4 alumni team, but holy cow, did they bring that fan base into this circle, this TBT circle. And we all appreciate the TBT and what it brings every summer. Without that fan base, they wouldn't be where they are today as War Ready. So I used to be really hardcore the other way, but when you think about the growth of TBT, it's come all through alumni teams. You've been to the games. You mentioned seeing the VCU team play in the band, watching Carmen's crew, watching Red Scare. It's just an incredible environment. So I don't care how many alumni team you have on, or how many alumni players you have on your team, as long as you have a representation and you have that fan base behind you, and you're representing that team honorably, then that's the way to go for me. Obviously, I heard that is much more appealing than a West Virginia Wildcat, and they represent their university really strong. A lot of respect for West Virginia, so we mentioned them a couple of times here today. West Virginia could probably be one of the best teams in the tournament, but they're going to stay true to their West Virginia roots, and they're not bringing in grad transfers like other folks. So, that's, I think, of an example they just need to be recognized for, the staying true to their roots. But I don't think there's a right answer or wrong answer. Get the fan base behind you, have some fun, and it doesn't matter. So let's stop debating if it's 4 or 5 or 7 or 8, and it's just fun, and it's good for TBT, period.
Amen. Tim, we're going to close with you. And I know you've got a very important take on what you want to say here.
I do. I want to give a shout out to my guy, Nick Elam. He has revolutionized basketball, in my opinion, especially the way the games end. And for those who are not familiar with the Elam ending, instead of people fouling and trying to run out the clock if you have the lead and fouling if you're behind, the drama is always going to be in the Elam ending, even in a blowout, because every winner has to hit a game-winning shot. So literally every game ends on a make, whether it's a free throw, a layup, a three-pointer, a dunk, it all ends on a make. Nick Elam, to me, is the guy in basketball that said, hey, let's cut the bottom out of the hoop and let the ball come through. Nick Elam is the guy that said, hey, let's paint the area around the hoop so that the offense can't stand around and just tip the ball in the whole time. Nick Elam is the guy who said, hey, if you shoot the ball from this far, let's give him 3 points instead of 2. Nick Elam is the guy that said, hey, you're not going to hold the ball for 5 minutes, Dean Smith, in the 4 corners. We're going to put a shot clock in. This is the next thing. This is the next evolution of basketball. And with all of those things, I wasn't around for all of them, but I was around for some of those things that changed basketball. And it was always a little bit of pushback, but in the end, it made the game better. I think the Elam ending is making basketball better, and I hope to see it in more places coming forward.
It's funny.
Great.
TBT's biggest advantage, besides the fan base and the event and the quality, is that it's also a wonderful laboratory for the evolution of basketball, because the hardcore fan loves it. Matt, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, I was going to add to that. Nick Elam is the guy that I paid to do my math homework in high school.
What, you didn't get those grades on your own, Matt? You had to pay for help. I was actually so surprised knowing I'm a massive nerd.
Calc 2 was really tough, man.
I was the math student of the year in high school one year. So I'm a massive nerd if you can't figure it out.
Man, I would have never guessed. Nerd.
A lot of locker stuffing.
Not in themselves, dude.
Well, anyway, we're gonna close on me being the world's worst nerd. Guys, Charge, Matt, Tim, Chris, thanks for coming on. This has been Charge 100% Zoom the TBT. Signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.